2018 5:30 Police Station Subcommittee call it to order, and I'm just gonna pass it right on over to Taylor.
Great. So Andy and I wanted to get in front of everybody because I know it's been a while, and it's not because nothing's been happening. The architect is in their construction document phase, and during that time, they really have their heads down. They're putting together the documents that are going to go out to bid. So that's why you technically don't see a lot of meetings during that time. It's really a process that's happening behind the scenes. But Andy and I felt it'd be good to get in front of everybody so you could see some of that progress. I can give you some updates on the owner items, and then we also wanted to talk about contractor pre-qualification, which we talked a little about at our last meeting, and it's a state statute that any project over $10 million has to be, you have to pre-qualify your contractors. Since our estimate came in at like 9.5, we're teetering, so we think it's a good idea that we move ahead with that process. So attached to the back of my agenda, I've outlined kind of what that process is and how we're going to need input from the committee. It's kind of it's a process that takes time, and you need involvement from the committee. So we'll kind of walk through those steps, and we can understand how that process goes. So first, Andy, I'll hand it off to you if you want to give us a design update.
Sure. So, as Taylor said, we've been furthering the documents from DD to CD, construction documents, but I've also been spending some time on value engineering. So I went through and I found one area was really bothering me, and I knew there was a better solution there, so I wanted to walk you through that. It could change, would have a very minor impact on the floor plan, but I think that it would be much better for the building. So if you first look at this site plan, by the way, these are full-scale plans for your reference if you don't want to look at the floor plan. If you look at this document, the 11 by 17 is the floor plan. So what I was really bothered by was this cistern and deep well fire pump that had been specified by the engineers. The main reason it bothered me is that the deep well was going to be a 20-foot excavation right in the heart of our building. So try to picture a 20-foot deep hole. This ceiling here is what? Where's the door? This ceiling here is a little like 7'6". Be about 3 of these deep. The wet well is 8 feet wide in diameter, and we'd have to dig maybe double or triple that or quadruple that to get down that deep. So it really can't be. The implications are just too great. So I started thinking that the solution could be the slope in the site or the change in elevation. One thing we have going for us, or against it, depending on what issue we're talking about, on what day, is slope. So I started looking into options of, your first thought, as not a sprinkler expert, is why can't we move the cisterns uphill and feed the sprinklers with gravity? You don't even need a pump. Well, that can't be. But I have something, I came up with a solution, something in between. And if we start and plan, you can see these two tanks look like little torpedoes. The concept is to move the cistern uphill into the high grade that we already have. So what that does, of course, is it would allow the tanks, it would allow a couple of things. It would be a much easier excavation to get them in, and we'd have gravity flowing towards the pump. This would then allow us to just use what's called a flooded suction pump, which has no well at all. Basically a pump that would sit on the floor. The well would completely go away. So we'd get rid of the wet well. We'd have a simple pump. And the solution is almost, it's so simple it's almost elegant, I think. So it's using the slope on the site. And I believe, I think the savings are in the order of $125,000. A couple of things I came up against that I'm in the process, well, I'm going to verify after we have this meeting if you're interested in this idea. is that, instead of using one 40,000 gallon tank or 30,000, I need to use two 15s, which is not a big deal. That has to do with height of the tank and minimum cover and stuff. But really no big deal. We'd be burying this up in the high grade, and it would just completely get rid of that wet well. However, a couple of things. We could engineer a solution where we're still feeding into that same sprinkler room, but it would make more sense if we stabbed right into the sally port. And I have an extra storage room in there. If you look on the floor plan, we have vehicle supply storage, and then there's miscellaneous storage. So the thought would be to make that into our sprinkler room. It would greatly shorten our run of pipe in, and right now, you can see that the engineer's showing the cistern over here. And at this scale, you can't even read what's going on over there because there's so much going on. So it'd be nice to get that right out of there and all the pipes, so it makes that cleaner. And if I did that, we could also make that the water room, and we could run the well right into it too, which if the well was here, it could stab right in. Take over 100 feet of well pipe and electrical wire that ran with it out of the equation. You could make that into the water room. I think it's worth looking into. The question for the building committee would be, is if that miscellaneous storage could become the fire pump room, and you would be, and you would get storage back where the sprinkler room was. You'd be able to store in there.
Yeah, I don't see any drawback to that.
No, not at all.
No.
And try to picture the excavation for that deep well. We'd be well into the water table. Perhaps from what we saw out there, we could be 10, 12 feet into the water table on that well.
I think your savings could be more than 125.
Could be, but, you know, just myself
Yeah,
taking out of the estimate, I come up with that.
Yeah, at least, unless I'm missing something, it seems like a no-brainer.
And your yearly inspections and maintenance go down on the fire pump. So the drawback would be losing that room. The only other drawback is this room may be too small, which in that case I would just pull this wall out however many feet. Just pull it out, and the auxiliary room up above would get bigger by that many feet, but it wouldn't be bad. We're just talking feet, you know, 1 to 10 feet coming out. And we're still at a point where we certainly could do that. But I've already done all the legwork. I could put this into motion if you're comfortable with it, and that would be the only floor plan change.
Taylor, have you seen these systems before?
not the one that this newer system here, no.
It's called flooded suction pump. Flooded because the tanks are just constantly have the pipes flooded to the pump. It's real simple.
Do you know any other
Yeah, I was
places
just- yeah,
that have it, or?
Yeah.
I do,
You do?
and it got my wheels turning. The elementary school has a flooded suction pump. If you look at how elegant,
Freetown?
yeah. I think the old timers were smarter than us. They, so they built, you know, they have that retaining wall on the side, they built that retaining wall to bury their cistern. We don't have to do that, we already have it.
Yeah. Yeah, taking that excavation out is huge money. The backfill.
Yeah, and it's just, can
kills
you
the wall.
imagine, that'd be the first thing we'd have to deal with on this project.
Right.
Just try to picture that hole. And you have to step it back for OSHA, unless we came up with a way to reinforce the sides, which, you know, that's just straight down, so we'd probably be stepping it back. Every area we step back, we're disturbing the soil under our footing. And,
How do you fill the storage tanks?
the storage tanks, you can have it filled directly by the well, or you can fill it up with a tanker truck as needed. or-
Okay, and that and that's never used unless there's an emergency.
Exactly, right.
Okay.
Yep.
So what are you recommending here, that it is tied in with the well? Or,
Yeah, I would think so.
I think it's kind of a more sleek
Yeah.
finished product, if you don't have to worry about filling it up, you know, if it does go off ever, but.
Yeah,
So what would you do initially, fill it up
from outside sources, so you wouldn't put like 30,000 gallons of demand on the well?
No, I think that, you know, during construction, just have the well filled up.
Okay,
It's good for a well to run anyways.
okay.
You know, a well runs dirty for a while, usually let it flow. And
Yeah.
Do you have a motion to move forward on that?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good. Some other value engineering, I wanted to talk about on the finishes. One of them was, if we flip the page, archival storage, A217. The interiors were showing high-density storage in there. Those units were pricing out at about $30,000. With the attic storage we have, I just think it's almost redundant to put high-density storage in here where for pennies on the dollar, we could, if you wanted to, frame another room in the unfinished attic, or just put regular storage in there. I think that would be a real nice savings on finishes right off the bat, and not go with this high-density unit in archival storage for $30,000.
Oh, that makes perfect sense.
I'd
We
recommend,
have the attic.
we're doing this on most of our projects now, we're pulling it out, because it's a system that can actually be installed after the fact.
Yep.
Some of them do mount into the ground, but some of them, you actually mount on top of your finished concrete floor, or your, whatever your flooring is. So it's something you could always install after the fact. It's a good thing to pull out and.
Well, I look at this, and, you know, there's so many things going on in the design and the plan, and then all of a sudden you look back and say, boy, we're putting in a high-density storage when we got a bunch of open space.
Yeah.
Well, I was just
It's
thinking
almost
that, right?
counterintuitive.
You could exploit a couple of the other areas for some storage.
And we have the attic.
Yeah. And the future records are mostly gonna be in an electronic form
Mhm.
rather than paper form. Yeah,
I think that one's a no-brainer.
yeah.
Another one on the value engineering is, the architectural woodwork was a bit high. I would recommend a meeting maybe with the interior, and it wouldn't have to be the whole committee, maybe the chief or the committee, and just discuss on how we bring that number down.
And what specifically is that again?
That's like some of the wood trim details and things like that on the interior.
The pretty stuff.
What do we have for a price now?
What's that?
What's
Still
the
get your
price
colors
right
though,
now?
right?
The
I
total
haven't
price.
picked out any
Yeah.
colors.
So
I don't know
the-
who got that,
The total
but that's
construction
fine.
price. Total construction price is $9,594,806.
That's everything, including the land and all?
That's everything. That's construction cost.
That doesn't
That
include
doesn't
any
count.
soft costs.
Does
Does
that
that
just,
include getting the property ready for the
Yes.
building?
Yes.
So that's the total cost?
mm-mm,
What's
That's the total
That's
construction cost, so that
construction,
doesn't,
not the-
building?
yeah, that doesn't include any of, you know, our fees, the architect's fees.
So what's the
material
total
testing.
cost that we're looking at?
I don't have it in front of me. We looked at it last, yeah,
it was 13.
yeah, was it 13?
Mhm.
Yeah, knew it was in the range of that.
But we're supposed to go back and look at, double costs and things like
Yes.
that, so that's why we don't, I guess.
Okay.
So with just the value engineering I did so far, I would take it down, I think I could take that down to about 9.4. Then, we had a pricing contingency from when this estimate was done till construction time, of 1.64%. That'd be about $150,000. That's for escalation possibly, that prices could go up due to inflation since then, so. With the value engineering, with escalation, construction costs are about 9.5 with the value engineering.
So why are you looking at me? I have no answers.
So when people ask what the project cost is, then you have to add the other stuff in, correct?
Correct. Right.
So what are we telling people? It's 9 million, or is it 9.5 million, or when people ask, are we saying it's 13 million?
Well,
I think you gotta be honest with people.
Yeah, of course, I think you have to tell them the project cost.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So,
Which-
total construction cost last time was 9.5.
That's our estimate, yeah, that's the last budget I put together.
That's without escalation. Basically, the value engineering would be worth more than.
I built escalation into it.
Yeah, there is escalation in there of 240.
Yeah, that's with escalation, so the total number, and that's with a 10% construction contingency, was 12.7. And there was, I think, about 3 million that was coming from
The town.
other sources, yeah.
Mhm. So if we can
3
take
million
the
from-
3 million from other sources, then we're down.
We were looking to get our number with 3 million below 10, is what I remember.
Right. Because I think that would be the number that people would more than likely be okay with.
Yeah, and at the last meeting, I handed out the construction cost summary. If anyone needs it, I can circulate that again, but I handed out an 8.5, 11, along with the,
I'm asking questions, I missed the last meeting.
yeah, so, and I also did that breakdown of square footage graphically to kind of help, because things were getting confusing with,
What was the price per square foot that we estimated?
on those numbers we just talked about. So, that would be about 370,
Really?
yeah,
So.
on
so-
construction.
Yeah, so 2 points. One is, we're looking at, I think, an estimate of like 1.6, 1.7 million just to clear this site, okay? In contrast, when you look at Middleborough or Westport or Lakeville, their costs are significantly lower because of the terrain, et cetera. So that's an important point to make. The other projects that I've looked at, and certainly pipe in here, the square footage was over $500 a square foot.
I believe the attic concept has really kept us
So,
down
I
in the
mean,
end.
when you're looking at a little 300 versus 500, which is the area average or more, that's another significant point to make.
Yeah, our prices in Lakeville and Dayton are higher than, that what we're talking about. And the reason for that is the land. In both those situations, we're pretty flat. Our site costs were 500,000 instead of 1.6 million.
Yeah.
That's the main difference driving our number here.
That's $1 million.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, the other thing too, we have more program space than Lakeville. But through our process, I believe it's prudent, taking this thing 40, 50 years into the future.
They, from what we've seen, there's no future development in the plan.
Yeah, and there was a real science to the programming, the final one's about this thick, I don't know if you remember. But, so, looking forward, I think on the 50-year plan, I mean, how old is this station?
That's 1978, 79?
Yeah, right, and, so we wanna go 50, right?
Yeah, when we did the schools, the main thing that we kept driving home was it was a 50-year plan. So there'll be no need to do any construction for at least, that amount of time, and that was a big point when we did the schools.
If you looked at our two floor plans, there are significant program differences, is what I'm saying. They are not significant. I put the two next to each other. Not saying anything about Lakeville, but we spent a lot of time and did that job. I'm very comfortable that it's the proper program for a 50-year plan.
What's the Lakeville cost?
7?
Total in budget was around 7, yeah.
So it has to be a much smaller station,
It's 11,000 square feet.
and this is what, 15?
Yeah.
No, it's more than 15.
Well, it's 15 of usable, and it was projected, I think you had 17 was the last,
Do they have a
But
community
we
room
have to
that
be
is-
really careful,
a
and
very small one.
we really have to be careful in deciding how to promote this, because certainly we all know that we're gonna be compared to the Lakeville station, okay, that's a given, right, that they're our neighbors and that's how it's gonna go. And we can say program, but they're gonna ask, well, why? Why, we're the same kind of departments, why should we have better programming, or why do we need more program space? You know, so I think we have to, like, we're not building the Taj Mahal, we're building towards the future, and I think that that's a driving point for people, but I think we have to be really careful on how we promote it, that people think that we're saying, go big or go home. I don't think that that's the point. I think the point is that for far too long, we've done with far less, and we need to make up lost time, and I don't know how to get that message out. I'm not gonna be the only one getting that message out. I'm not gonna allow myself to get to that level anymore. So whatever we do to promote this, we're all gonna have to be on board with it, and we're all gonna have to promote it at the same time.
Do you think people would come to an informational meeting?
Yeah.
I could run it.
Oh, that would be great.
And we'd hit all the points very concisely. It would be wise for me to give it to you in a meeting like this first, and then
Yep.
you could have some input.
I definitely think that between
And
you,
and
Tina,
maybe, I would say
and the
we do,
chief.
yeah, maybe do 3 of them. Then no one could say, I couldn't make it. If no one shows up at one, then we'd go home early. But I think that'd be great. And what's been very effective, I think I've said this to this committee before, I've been getting on the phone and talking to people. I make a point to call, I make a point to find 30 people. And I call and I just talk to them about it. And you wouldn't believe, after all the outreach and all the everything, there's still a misunderstanding. People are lazy about information. They only want to hear what they want to hear. So, I believe that an informational meeting would be great, a presentation that we could put together. I'd be more than happy to do that.
And I think before you have the big meeting and so forth, every one of us needs to have a type of sheet with information that we're all saying, that the
Same
same
thing.
thing. The square footage, the price, and have that like a cheat sheet, really, so every one of us, so if someone calls you, someone's standing in line for the town meeting, I heard so much. And I hate to tell you, but you will be really surprised, it was very positive about the police station. I heard lots of people saying, well, we know there's gonna be a new police station and so forth, and that's coming up, and we wanna be ready for that. But I did hear a few say, well, what do you mean? Why do we need it? Can't they just fix it? Well, luckily, I was sitting there, had a lot of time, so I, could explain some of that. But I think, right now, I need facts, as far as any organization that I belong to in town. So that if I have the facts that you have, and so if we all have this same sheet, basic facts, that we
Yeah,
found, and so that would be good to have. But I think it's much more positive than I really thought it was going to be. I really, really, really think so. I think it's not gonna be as difficult. I don't know, maybe you're hearing something different, but I heard a lot of that in line.
I think Paul's heard.
Two
stuff
nights
different.
of
I
mine.
think it's important to get this out in front of the
Right.
people. I think it's very important to have the facts to say what the difference is between Lakeville and this
Yeah, that's a
station.
good
Because
thing on the
there's-
sheet.
That's very important.
So
to hear
that's,
the
yeah,
difference,
that's what I was
because
gonna say.
a lot of stuff you're
Huge.
hearing in East Freetown is that, what the hell, Lakeville is building one for $7 million.
Exactly right.
All right? And you gotta sell the people on it, or it's not gonna fly. I'm telling you, it's not gonna fly.
So
Well, I'm here.
I can at least give, information on the projects that I'm working on. But that's what I'll do. I'll do a complete comparison
Yes,
between
that'd be good.
Lakeville, this project, Dayton, anything else that's, surrounding it, Dartmouth. I have 3 projects right in the vicinity that I can explain the
Westport's very
reasons.
similar.
You know what I mean?
I get that, but that's that fine line that we really have to be cautious about, right? So, okay, it's all good for those departments, why is that not good enough for us?
Mhm.
And I think that there's a fine line, and I think it goes back to, we've done without, and we wanna bring our police department and our station to the next level, because we think that the town deserves it. You know what I mean? Like, I think that we have to play on
Well,
that.
And the
because-
land preparation is,
Yeah.
that site work.
The land is the biggest difference.
That's the
between
big, and we've gotta stress that that's the biggest difference. Not that we're giving them the Taj Mahal, but it's
There.
what we're starting with.
The 50
And I think,
solution.
you know, if you can prepare that, we'll bring it in, and then we talk about
Oh.
it amongst ourselves
Good idea.
before we,
It's locked?
You gotta get the pictures of this out there. so
Great
people
job,
can
Charlie.
see. They have no idea what this thing is gonna look like.
So, I know that Tim did a 360, view of the police station, that's all set, it just needs to be uploaded, it needs to be reviewed by everybody and then just uploaded.
Did you have a chance to take a look
I
at that?
did.
Yeah, it's
It
nice.
looked good.
And then there was a PowerPoint that, were you working on it, Chief?
PowerPoint got handed off to Andy.
Yeah.
Because I have information to go in
Who
that.
eliminated the dead mice from it, I think, or something, right?
Yeah, and,
We got more.
and I have some other ideas also. But, again, at the meeting, we talk about why not renovate that? which
Yeah.
That's an easy one, and
Those are the questions you're gonna get asked.
Lisa, if you get it to me in a format that it can be transferred to cable, I can get that on cable for you.
That's perfect, thank you.
Are these things gonna go on the website, our website?
Yeah,
And can we get the signs at the two ends of town saying, hey, listen, look, go to the website and learn about the police station?
yeah, and we can put that on our website too. Maybe even at the Father's Day.
so you think it's best to have these things soon, and then leave a lot of time between now?
I think
and the
that we
vote?
need to
Or
have a
do you think we
hard-
should hit it like a month before the vote?
No,
both.
no,
Yeah,
I
no.
was-
soon.
I was thinking, get out the PowerPoint 360 view, and then we're going out to bid, right at the beginning of September. You know, put it out, in August. Set up the informational sessions in August. So you're
End
hitting
of
them right
July.
before the bid, you know? But have the marketing behind it out as soon as we can, you know, throughout the summer.
Yeah,
Because this is a two-stage vote,
Yeah,
right? It's a town meeting vote, and then it goes to a ballot.
correct. Yeah.
So you gotta bring as many people on board as you can.
the other thing that's really important is that, we all also need to be on the same page, for the funding of this. Because, if we're not on the same page for the funding of this, and we're all going at this at different angles, and, you know, it's gonna be a mess. So, I don't like backdoor decisions or, backstabbing decisions. So I think that whatever decisions are made at this table and voted upon, have to be the ones that we're all gonna go forward with.
Absolutely.
Where's the FC on this?
And of course,
They have their own plan.
you know, for the informational meeting, I would suggest that, you know, a calculation per household be done. That's the
A
bottom
lot
line for
of
these people.
taxation.
Yeah,
It's
it has to be.
impossible.
So if you do the math,
Mhm.
it's gonna cost, project cost is X, we're gonna apply X to that, comes out to this is
Yeah,
how
we
much
need
it
the
would
tax
cost.
impact
Yeah,
for,
tax.
We'll get that. I feel like there may be, some people out there that are saying that they wanna pay it all from taxation.
It can't be done, Lisa.
So, I totally agree with
Financially
you.
can't be
I'm just
done.
saying that there are
It's a big
people
one, no more.
that are talking about how it can be done all through taxation. I just wanna make sure that, I think maybe for the next meeting, we have to review those numbers and see, so everybody knows where the money is coming from at this table, and they
Yep.
can, and,
I mean, that's why we, on
Right.
fact sheets and so on, so
Yep.
we all hear it and we all see it, and just, if someone calls you, someone gets you at something, and then we look at lists of events that are coming up and see if we can't start having a table there, and, you know.
It's
the-
important to have the same answers from everybody.
Yeah, I mean, and the historical's open house, you know, a lot of people go from town, things like that, have a table set up and say it's gonna be there, things like that. And I think at least one police officer kind of maybe at it part of the time, because you can answer questions better than any of us, you know. And so, why can't we do what goes on? You know, people don't know. Or even if we can have that PowerPoint running there. Because we really have to work hard between now and vote.
So why don't we meet soon, where, I'll give you, you know, a rough draft of the informational presentation.
I'll send you one.
And you can comment on it, and you can also backfill the stuff that I'm not providing.
Okay,
So we
Okay.
could do
Yeah, I
that.
think at this point, we should, maybe get back into an every 2-week schedule, that's what I was gonna recommend.
Okay.
If we meet in 2 weeks, maybe we could look at a draft PowerPoint, draft fact sheet, those sort of things, and actually start putting together information that we're gonna be putting live to people.
Well,
Yep.
which one of you will work on the kind of a fact sheet for us? Will be Andy or you?
It'll be, between CJ
Together.
and us.
and then once we get that from you, then we can work on, and I think collectively as a group, after we review the numbers and after we know where the numbers lie, then I think we can add that to the fact sheet, and then we can all
Yep.
work off of that one sheet.
And,
I
and if you know
suggest-
someone's really against it, try to get their questions, you know what I mean? So
Well,
that
yeah,
we
if
can
you-
have those right. Let them come at you and get those questions, so
Well,
that we can be ready.
The first informational session will reveal the questions you're gonna be asked at the second and third.
Yeah.
So, as we learn.
They may still not agree with you at the end, but at least you have what you have out on the table, so.
What were you gonna say, Andy?
I suggest, let's get together, let me do that one, and then you'll figure out
Yep.
what you wanna add, and we can take it from there. I don't think anybody, what I'm saying is, no one except Taylor and I really need to do anything until, we'll give
Exactly.
a presentation.
Exactly.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
we'll put in, we'll tell you when we need some information from you, or then, and you give your input, and we'll keep it
So
going.
you have the PowerPoint now? Or
I
you
have the
a copy?
PowerPoint that Chief put
All
together
right,
with.
so you and I can tag team on that too.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that it? Don't we have a lot
Um,
more to go through?
That's not it yet.
I know, I'm like, wait a second.
Well, we skipped ahead to, I had project
Okay.
marketing down here, so.
On this site plan, two other things are shown. An ideal spot for the radio tower would be up on this high ground, because we would automatically gain 16 feet just by putting it up there. So, a nice spot for it would be where I'm showing that triangle, and then we could design a cable tray that goes right into the building. It would look something like this. And that's that triangle I'm showing up here. Slide it over there, so I'm working on that.
So that's, and that's a major cost savings too. You lose the height, but the cost of that cable is the most expensive thing on the tower, so.
And then, okay.
Oh, you're saving all kinds of money, Andy.
Yeah,
Getting
Okay.
it closer to the building
They
is huge.
yeah,
How high is the tower?
we don't know yet. I think we should start interfacing. How much information have you gotten back from?
I have his draft report now, so I'll share that with you.
Oh,
I think
okay.
we're looking at an 80-foot tower.
That's all?
Yeah.
Freestanding?
Yes. What do you have, what's the height of the tower you have now?
130,
Yeah, I don't think you need to go that high, but I'll double check everything, obviously.
Does he have other satellites?
Yeah.
So that's fine.
Oh, that's, you're putting other.
Yeah, he's, the point of the study was to get rid of those dead spots that are in town, so he's,
but correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that radio infrastructure with microwave satellites and stuff is included in the project station costs.
it is in our, can I see that budget again? I think actually when I saw his final number, it was close to the number we're carrying. I'll obviously verify that. Yeah, it was actually pretty close. The antenna was included in that number, this number here, the 350.
All right, so let me follow through on this, because if that's true, and that's gonna set up a microwave system so we can actually talk, that system is, and I'm absolutely serious, that we have spots that we cannot communicate, many. But not only will that benefit us, but the fire department can piggyback off the same microwave system, and the highway department, and the animal control, and who else. So that is significant. So instead of the town having to go out and borrow hundreds of thousands of dollars in the future, probably near future, to cure this problem, this project does that as well.
Yeah, when I told him to go through it, I told him to look at highway and fire department. You know,
Wow,
so
that's unbelievable.
his study took care of, you know, all those items.
Does that include their radios, their
That
equipment?
includes the new radios too.
For the police station, but what about the other ones?
No.
Okay.
It include, you know, it wouldn't cover their radios, but,
But the radios would be able to work on that system.
correct.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
but you have to change your radios to make it work on that system.
So what we would do, as we purchase new radios, we would purchase those that are capable of analog and digital. So some point when all of our radios were purchased to that capability, we would switch over to the digital system. You know, that'll be piecemeal as we go forward.
Yeah, so I haven't gone through it in depth, because just received it, but when I took a quick read through, he had, pretty sure most everything you're talking about covered with a price that's pretty close to where we're at, and I haven't even started to go through it with him to say, all right, let's take this out or take that out, so.
The digital system will solve with all the extra repeaters or whatever you're using, it'll solve the issue?
It would be a microwave system that would solve the issue, yeah.
Is that the narrowband? Is that narrowband?
Well, we're already on narrowband. The microwave system needs line of sight, and it's more efficient than the RF we're using. But there are other issues in trying to locate towers where we're gonna put microwave. So, but, I mean, we can look at that draft.
How about the
report.
church steeple at St. Bernard's?
Not high enough.
No, that's up there pretty good, just because of elevation.
Yeah, but when you start coming from the police station toward Asona, it's a downgrade, and there's a ridge, you know where Monty Dawson's house is?
No.
Well, there's a ridge that makes a steep decline toward the Taunton River Basin. The signal can't get down in that area. So you need something that would have line of sight from the police tower across, you know, so it's like a shadow. If I was shining a flashlight, you'd have a shadow on that side of the ridge. Well, that's how the radio signal's working. We can't get out of there. So we need to hit a tower as line of sight to come back. It's not good.
Yeah.
All right, well, if that's the
When you live
case.
in the lowlands, that's what happens to us.
I'll go for,
And it's
I'm gonna go
both
through it
lines
before our
are
next
pretty
meeting,
fine.
and I'll send it to you too,
All right.
so we can start picking that apart.
And the only other red line on this site plan shown is we X out the auxiliary building, because we're gonna go with the attic scheme, and we're not gonna pursue that one anymore. We talked about those costs last time. So, that's about it. Some of the value engineering we can look at is, you know, right now in the circulation areas, we have rubber tile, which is a premium floor surface. We could go to a vinyl tile, which is not a VCT, it's not that. It's below rubber tile but above VCT. That's a $2 savings a square foot. To give some meaning to that, that's worth about $7,000. We could look at some of the softening in the ceilings, the architectural millwork. And right now, in the bathrooms, you know, we have tile full up on the wet walls and half on the non-wet walls. If we were to just do tile on the wet walls, we could incur a savings of about $15,000, things like that. So.
That stuff is important. I mean, why would you wanna switch to a lower grade tile that's gonna last less time than the other one? For
That's
save
my-
$7,000?
That's my feeling, and that's
It's
why.
not worth it.
Right, that's why I went more at the sprinkler and the wet well,
I
and I
think,
tried to
yeah, I
identify
think you
one.
have to hit big ticket items. I think that we've been really prudent on, not so much prudent, but also thinking the 50-year plan. I mean, the VCT tiles at the Grays Intermediate School are already coming up. They're already chipped, cracked, and everything else. It looks horrible. So I think keeping with the flooring that we already picked out is probably a better idea. That's my personal opinion.
Andy makes a good point, because I think we're at a point where we haven't, the finishes that are in the building aren't Taj Mahal, they're not grandiose,
Right.
they're functional, and they're what they should be. And, by Andy saying, we can save 7,000 here and 2,000 there, that means we're at a point where, we've designed this building efficiently to really, you only get to a point where the more money you wanna save, you have to cut square footage. And that's where I think we're at. The finishes in this building, we don't have, tile floor, and we don't have a bunch of millwork, and, things like that. So, if you wanna save real money, you cut square footage. So we're kind of at a place where I'm comfortable, I know CGA is comfortable where those finishes are, and really to just start cutting those now without seeing a final bid price, it's not worth it in the end, You're cutting quality at this point.
Yeah,
The other thing too is that as we know, we've had many conversations about this, our training EOC room is 1,500 square feet.
It's a lot of square footage,
Well, what's Lakeville's?
a quarter of that.
So multiply that time, but we wanna have a place where we could have a meeting like this, and we're not looking through a poll.
right.
So, and I think it's a great idea, and I think the town needs it.
I agree. I think we've done everything we can. I think we've built a building and designed a building or helped to design a building that we feel is what we need, suits our needs. I don't know, what do you think, Carlton?
Yeah, so, initially we went through the assessment and, it was very comprehensive as to what those needs are. We looked at, at population growth, et cetera, and we've designed a building, not just for one detective in a little cubbyhole, but for 2 or 3. The same thing with staff and locker rooms. To me, it reflects our needs and to take us into the future many years, maybe 50 years. Unless something crazy happened in population growth, but as of this time, after looking at the Serped numbers and stuff, this seems very satisfactory.
It's cost versus value kind of thing,
The only thing I could see possibly being lost is the training room and the 50 supporting parking spaces. But if the mission is not only for the police, but to have a room that, all of the town departments can use, the fire department can use, et cetera, then we've got to stick with what we have,
How much would we gain by cutting
I don't,
that down?
the figure was,
It's not
the
gonna
figure
be-
wasn't, it was like 150,000 or something, or it wasn't?
Yeah, if you did it straight by the numbers, right, if you took
Yeah.
15 and cut it in half, 750 times, say 400 is what?
28?
350? But it's not as much, it's not that much. But if you just go straight
Yeah, it's
split.
300,000 if you cut it in half. That's what I mean about, you're at a point where,
You'd save 300,000.
No, you wouldn't.
That's what he just said.
Well, that's just taking this
that's just
price
doing
per
the
That's
square
why
foot,
it's
multiplying,
Yeah,
but
so-
it wouldn't really work that way. If you got down to real numbers, it would be more in the 100-something
Okay,
thousand
so in that
dollars.
case, it's not worth modifying it.
But then, Mark, that would infringe upon your training at the same time, your trainings, right? Because,
Yeah.
Yeah, it would.
yeah, I
But-
would
but
think
I
it
think
would.
it's a sales feature for the building.
I do.
It's an explanation for the cost. It's something that, not only is it the police station, but it also has this feature that's gonna benefit the entire community.
Which
And that's
would,
what makes it different than all the other buildings.
which would mean that every other department would have to get on board with it, because the senior center could use it for brown bag, right? I mean, they can't do brown bag in here, the senior center might be able to use it for brown bag.
Oh, they wouldn't wanna use brown, this is where you wanna keep.
Or,
Yeah.
or if it's, if
For
they had
something else, for
social,
meeting socials and stuff,
a
yeah.
social or something like that, I know that,
But when you have a hearing, a planning board has
yeah,
a hearing and things like
exactly.
that, they
There's
could use it.
so
I
many
mean,
other reasons.
Board of Appeals, and they have a hearing.
Yeah, I think you get,
And those
get
kinds of committees
plenty of
could use
use
it.
outside of
Center,
us.
And then
center of town,
And there'd be parking.
Right.
parking,
It's not worth taking it
handicapped
up.
access,
I think
open
it's a
to
huge selling point.
all of the departments, how big or small.
Yeah.
when Marion built theirs, their room is half that size. and they're turning people away. They have people sign up for it every week. You know, different committees in the town, you know, they have to literally put up a sign-up sheet. So, people will use it, absolutely.
It's how that, so how many people is that?
It's probably roughly 25 to 30. That was 9 years ago, so I don't remember the price, but.
If we had that room, I wouldn't have to bring my 1972 projector screen.
Yeah.
We were gonna hit you up for the donation for the whiteboards and all that kind of stuff.
Well, we could name the training room after you with
That's
some
right, if you donated.
important
Yeah, there you go.
donations.
Plaque with your.
Maybe a bus,
your
bronze
likeness
bus,
on
you
it, yeah.
guys, right?
Okay, we can talk.
I'm not saying no.
The other thing is, you know, you've got, it's gonna be wired for the OCs and any emergency, so it's gonna be, that's gonna be the central place.
That's
That's
another,
a good point.
that's
Instead
a
of
huge
the,
point right there.
we used to be in the
Kitchen
interview
and the-
room, and now we're in the kitchen of the fire department, I mean.
And
That's
the
another-
last time we had a major one, the guy that was running it ran it out of his pickup truck, so we really didn't have a central place that it was gonna be. So,
That would serve as that.
Right,
so that would be,
that's huge. I think that's a big,
And I-
huge selling
yeah.
point.
Those are all the things we're gonna add to
Right.
our.
All right, where are we next on the agenda? Is that it?
Is that it for design?
Yeah.
Covered everything? So just quickly, we talked about some of these owner vendors, but now that the plans have kind of developed a bit more, where I can start sending the plans to different vendors, I'm gonna be reaching out for furniture. I'd recommend WB Mason, we'll get a couple different quotes, but they seem to be what we've seen, the cheapest and easiest to work with when you're going for furniture. Dispatch consoles wouldn't come from WB, they'd come from a specialty vendor. These are the consoles for dispatch in the PD. We have a couple different vendors that we work with there. We give them the specs that you guys are looking for, and again, get some prices. So my goal now at this point is to get all of our prices of our owner vendors in before we go out to bid. So we not only have a strong or a hard construction number, we're also gonna have hard soft costs. So we'll have a final kind of all-in number. Security, same thing, we'll start looking at vendors that we bid that out to. Phones, I'm gonna need to know what type of, I assume the town has a VoIP system now, or maybe with the town hall? No, okay.
We're actually looking at that. We've begun exploring the possibility of doing that.
So the plan would be then is to get a phone system here, they'll be able to integrate into the system that the town hall eventually gets, and it can be upgraded, that sort of thing. 911, we work with them all the time, we have existing contacts there, I've already sent them a notice to be on the lookout for this, to get that in the queue. Utilities, same thing, we'll work with CGA, with their engineers on getting load letters out and getting the ball rolling on gas, electric, that sort of thing. And then commissioning, I already have a quote from WSP, I'll get 2 more quotes to get our systems commissioned here. So, again, get everything rolling at the same time we're finishing our CDs, so we can have final numbers, you know, come bid time.
So one thing about the juvenile holding, we need to contact the state to see if it, you know, complies with all of the CMRs.
Yeah, there's a form, actually, you send to DPH. If your cells in your existing station ever pass.
You upstairs?
Yeah, but he never came back.
We get gigged, almost 2 decades now, on
Yeah.
well, suicide hazards and everything like that.
So the process with DPH is pretty smooth. You know, they have a form you fill out, you send them the plan, they review it, and send it back with any, you know, issues or changes you need.
Any of the phone information, since you're not gonna match with the town system, will probably have to match with your system. Can you share that with
Oh,
the
abso-
town administrator?
absolutely, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, none of this will be done in a bubble.
Yeah, that's
Once I
perfect.
have information, it'll start, I'll start distributing it out to everybody. Just kinda wanted to give everybody what the marching orders are, you know?
Okay.
And lastly, I wanted to talk about pre-qualification. And Dan, you wanted to talk about this too, correct?
Yes.
So if you go to the next page, so this is a state mandated process for any project over $10 million, construction costs. And because we're at 9.5, our construction number could come in at 10. And then the state's gonna say, why did you pre-qualify? Hopefully that's not the case. We wanna be a little better, but I think it's a good idea to go through that pre-qualification process anyway. It kind of megs out any bad contractors.
Do you have any more?
Yep.
Give me, I lost mine.
Yeah, we use one too.
It's on the second page.
Alright. Yeah.
So it at least gives you, I think, not only a reasonable list of contractors, but it also gets contractors interested in the project early. So they're looking at it, they're getting some pricing early. So that, I think, helps in the end anyways. Part of that process is we need 3 individuals from this committee to be part of the pre-qualification committee. Now, the way the state mandates it is that, in our case, 3 people from this committee, myself, and somebody from CGA would be part of that process. And there's a strict guidelines that you have to follow, and I'll distribute that out to everybody about how it all works. But I thought tonight we could at least pick who those 3 people would be in terms of the rating process. Does anybody want to volunteer?
When is this?
I'll send out some dates, but the whole process from start to finish takes probably about 2 months. And the reason that is you put together really an RFQ for your general contractors and your subcontractors. You put that out in the street. They have to then reply with their packages. And, most of the contractors and subcontractors have all been through this process now. So when they reply to it, they're applying to basically a checklist that the state's put together. Okay, do they meet this criteria, X, Y, and Z? And the reviewer, one of us 5, has to take a set of those and go through each one. So that process of putting it out and getting it back takes 2 weeks. And then your review may take a week, but subcontractors, you could get 150 packages in. Exactly. So that's the part that takes a long time. And then you break it up, each person does 10. So that's what takes a little bit of time. It's not the funnest process, but it's something we gotta go through. So if anybody would like to volunteer, you do learn a little bit about the contractors when you go through the process.
I'll go.
Ben?
It is a fairly standard evaluation process.
It is standard.
And it will work with you to kind of develop the criteria that's gonna be more suited for this project, and you kind of tailor it around that. But it is time consuming in terms of just the reference checks, just going through everything. And you do have to be pretty methodical about it, so that way nobody challenges it, none of the contractors challenge it. But as Taylor mentioned, that you could get a lot, it's every major subcontractor.
Yeah.
That's gonna get pre-qualified, which makes up a lot of it.
So if we had 12 subcontractors and, 10 people submitted for each one, there's 120 packages you have to review. Sometimes you get more, sometimes you get less, but.
And like you said, though, we can kind of divvy up some of that
Exactly.
effort to try not to have so much a burden on you guys. But it's important that you're represented, through this effort, because that's how the state requires it.
Yeah, so if you ever audited, they'd like to see, okay, which committee members participated in it, okay, the architect did, the OPM did, they do that whole check, so we just have to make sure we're represented.
So it's 2 representatives, 3 including you, correct? Is it a total of 4? I thought it was a total of 4 that the state
I
required.
thought it was 3, I'll double check.
Yeah.
I thought it was 3 committee, a total of 5,
Okay.
but I'll double check that.
Thanks.
If we could have 3 people volunteer,
identified, yeah.
then we can at least, I'll send something out just to verify.
I'll volunteer.
And David will do it too.
Am I technically amended right now?
No.
Actually, but I'll put it this way too, you can have more than two, so
This will be a helpful exercise.
Unofficially, you
Yeah.
have more.
more the merrier, because it helps break things up with the amount of packages you receive.
Anyone can help
Yeah.
with the reference checks and the reviews, but they need to have a formal subcommittee
Correct.
identified.
I'm
that's all.
taking the procurement course for building construction 3 days next week, so.
There you go.
This was
So this is,
right.
yeah, you'll learn about this in that course.
So we have to
Bring some toothpicks.
post our meetings and take minutes, et cetera, of all of those
Yeah.
as well?
Well, I'll handle that.
Okay.
Minutes are pretty simple for it, because you're just, receiving
Where's
packages and
Tim
divvying
tonight?
them out, so it's not, the biggest
Tim.
amount of lifting you're gonna have to do is the
Was
reference
he
checks.
supposed to be here?
Right.
The reference checks
Is
is,
he
because
the
it's tough to get phone
recording
calls
secretary
back, or
Mm.
Oh,
emails, but
fine.
we have tricks
He's
that
been
we can
working
help
on
you
the-
get some responses back.
Don't really care. He's our recording secretary, he's supposed to be paid.
So is that it?
Yeah, is there anything else you wanna add to that?
No, I mean, I think time is of the essence, obviously, because,
notes.
I just handed out our schedule, of what we're anticipating when we're completing construction documents. Obviously, the effort needs to be completed to pre-qual contractors before we go out to bid. And as Taylor, you mentioned, about 2 months, it takes a good 2 months. If we don't receive responses initially, we have to re-advertise and actually get, if we receive less than 3. So we could lose another couple of weeks in that effort while we're
I
at it.
yeah, I didn't even think of it, honestly.
Yeah, so it's something we'll work together
Either
on,
way.
Dan, to
I don't
put
care.
together the packages that'll go out,
Sure,
and then we can go from there.
that's correct.
We'll put together a timeline of pre-qualification.
The notes so far, so.
That's perfect. And there's timing with that, so,
Yeah, so
no, we're good.
we'll tie in the pre-qualification schedule with Dan's master schedule here,
Okay,
so
perfect.
we all know, where that falls.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, according to the schedule, we're looking to have the bid documents available by August 29th. Have the file sub bids due by September 26th, and the GC bids due on the 10th of October. And the file sub bids, I'm assuming you're aware of who those subcontractors are, but those are the ones that we're pre-qualifying.
Correct.
Yeah,
And like I mentioned, it's all the major trades. It's only excluding basically site, steel, wood, finishes, certain finishes like carpentry, but for the most part, it makes up a good part of your team. That's it.
all right. Is everybody good? Questions? Comments?
I'll
Concerns?
start putting together an informational meeting, and I'll present to you at the next meeting.
So when we start looking at project costs, should we look at the 12?
Yeah, I would use the full
Okay.
project cost.
All right.
But it'll be on the fact sheet, we'll break it up, construction cost, soft cost.
Well, I know there's
Total
some
budget,
cost savings, so I
I'm gonna
wasn't,
talk to Kim about that one.
yeah, we'll sit down and have a meeting together. All right, perfect.
Do we wanna schedule our next meeting out?
Should be a good idea.
So, the 2 weeks thing is good, but I think I'm pretty stacked that next week.
Okay.
So, if that next week I'm good, but, I think I have a packed week next week. I have
The
a packed
following week is
this.
4th of July week, so,
Yeah, it would land on the 3rd, I don't know if people are.
That's the,
I
yeah,
know.
no.
no. No
We're a
one
little
in this
busy.
room will be
Now,
there on the
we're
3rd.
moving big into the fall.
We live for that.
That's why
Lots
that,
of
that's why that
fireworks,
week is so
so-
packed, everybody was trying to meet before then.
We're getting stampeded down there. But, all right.
So everybody goes to that area where the radios don't work to like.
Yeah, that's where.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we put a bunch of people in fire together in a place where the police and fire don't get that.
We have a fire station.
And light fireworks off.
That's right.
The fireworks, everything, if it could happen, big
Well, I know where I'll be then.
Not
Uh,
there.
We could meet the following week, the 10th. What we can do is circulate, obviously, we'll circulate some emails and get some things flowing,
Okay,
rather than if we can't meet, so does the 10th work?
10th works for me.
Yeah, let's just put a blue suit, that's all I can get.
Yeah, 10th at 5:30.
Something like that.
And then in the meantime, we'll see if we can circulate the fact sheet, the PowerPoint,
Yep.
get some stuff flowing so people can respond.
All right. Is that it, peeps? Yes? All right, motion,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.